C600 M. This will probably be it for the day. So the C600 M, like if you just look at the front, looks exactly like a S600 M. So you open the doors, or if the decal is correct, right, it'll tell you, or you can look at the serial plate. Under 25 horsepower, so we took the Spectrum SB mechanical motor, derated that sucker so it only runs 24 horsepower instead of 34 horsepower. And now we have a Tier 4 final engine unit, right? And primarily customers outside of California. The S600 M, from what I understand from the sales guys, has a pretty hefty price tag. All kinds of good benefits, evergreen in California forever, but I'm a guy who runs the East Coast. I'm never going to California. So why should I pay a few extra $1,000 for something I don't really need? So they developed and brought this out. The other guys, all their units, every single thing runs under 25 horsepower. They have no other options. We have a couple. So it is a Tier 4 final engine, so it's completely EPA compliant, right? But the California guys say, because it's a dirtier engine, it's not evergreen, we're only going to give you 7+ years. You might ask, what's the plus? How can it be 7+? Because the CARB law actually said you can use the engine year or the unit year, whichever comes to your benefit. So right about now, going into the fall, our units are actually having 2017 engines installed. So a customer who buys a unit early fall actually gets a few extra months because they can use the engine because it's better. Now maybe a guy who got it in January, right? Doesn't make any difference. He's got a 2016 unit, then he's just going to get 7 years. That's where the plus comes in. And I think Thermo King tries to push Yanmar to pump out the next year's model engine to the US as soon as possible. So, mechanical engine, right? I've already been saying this is very similar to the Spectrum SB. Simple, reliable. You guys have already been working on that for a long time. Notice we're still maintaining the same RPMs. 2200 high speed, 1450 low speed, and I think it's plus or minus 25. However, in the C600, forget that whole plus or minus 25. On high speed, we want you to hit that 2200. It has to be at that 2200. And when you make the adjustment, if it's off, when the unit is actually running, you may actually go as high as 2300. Before, we used to say, no reason to go above 2200 because we used to say it was basically a waste of fuel to run higher RPM. There's no additional benefit. Here, it's a detractor. If it doesn't reach the proper RPM in high speed, then you may start experiencing some capacity issues. So C600M, RPMs are critical to the proper operation of the unit. So here they are side by side, kind of the general specs on them. Starting from the left there with the SB Spectrum, the TK486. Today, it's a TK486 V25. So that tells you that it's an under 25 horsepower motor. So I said before, if you can see the horsepower, right? We've always typically been right around 34 horsepower. That gives you the best capacity, but due to the emissions, went ahead and derated, but we're actually getting pretty good capacity. Even though we have a 125 horsepower engine, when you see later, the refrigeration architecture really comes to our benefit. That is actually the huge benefit to what the precedent does, is that change, that architectural change in the refrigeration system. So emissions, the The Peugeot we talked about before, Evergreen, got DOC, EGR, where the other two guys don't have any of that stuff.
That's like the you're talking about, or the whole system, the dual condenser.
Yeah, the bigger evaporator, the two condensers, the fact that we got rid of belt-driven blowers, and we're electric. The electric fans are actually more efficient.
Oh yeah, you reduced the horsepower because you didn't need to pull that fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we are turning a generator. So. Just kind of real quick, this kind of slide kind of demonstrates that we're actually doing very well from refrigeration capacity, right? It's strictly talking BTUs. You look at the top at the spectrum, each one of those applications, right? We have a capacity gain. So 35 degree set points, box temps, at 100 degrees. So the first number is what we're maintaining in the box. The second number is our ambient. By the way, this is a kind of this is a standard test. All the units are tested to 100 degree ambient standard. 51, 35, 100. Right, zone 1, zone 2, 0, 100 degrees, 31 versus 30,000 BTUs. At minus 20, right, we're gaining almost 3,000 BTUs. Up here, at minus 20 in cycle century, I don't think we ever really got there. I think the best we've ever pulled is like minus 18. Unit doesn't always shut down in cycle century. Down here, that guy will get to minus 20. It'll shut down in cycle century. Huge boost. You can use this unit for deep frozen application. It's even quieter, right? The S600 M, that's another advantage. The Peugeot engine is actually pretty quiet. It's a very quiet engine. But the C600 M is not that far behind. That's why you typically don't see precedent units with whisper packages anymore. There's real no need. So they don't even bother with the option. They've quieted the unit significantly. And the biggest bump, right? I say there's a payback. Customers who buy the precedent are going to get pretty much double-digit fuel savings. I typically say double-digit because, you know, that's probably, on average, the best you're going to get, 13, 15%. But even like if you run a lot of deep frozen, you're still probably going to get double digits. You're still going to be around 9, 10% better. So, yeah, we'll ask for more money on the precedent, but after 7, 8 years of operating it, whatever extra money you paid, you actually get it back. So here's just one example. A 3-zone unit running fresh in 1 and 3, frozen in the middle, saved almost a full gallon. Doesn't sound great at $2.50, but boy, when we had gas prices $3 and $4 a gallon, over 2,000 hours, adds up. So that's my pitch for selling. You're already buying it. Okay, eco pull down, and hopefully we'll be able to run one of these units, actually turn the motor and see what the refrigeration is. Maybe we can do that Wednesday or Thursday. But in that CA10, which we checked, the C600 M out there, does have CA10 software. That's pretty much what the units are leaving the factory up until a couple months ago when we added CA11. So this is a new feature in the software. Eco pull down, right? If you ever see your unit, right, so I said turn it on, 2-minute low speed lockout. The moment it goes through 2 minutes, it looks at the box temp in comparison to the set point. It's going to hit high speed to pull down. By the way, eco pull down's defaulted. If you don't like it, you have to go in there, guarded access, and disable it. So what happens is, instead of going to high speed, every zone that's above 35, it literally stays in low speed pull down until it gets to 35 degrees. And then if you have a zone that's set for less than 35 degrees, it's not till that point that it actually switches to high speed.
So if it's
Go ahead.
35 degrees out and you got 35% to 35, it's going to be low speed until it reaches 35?
Yeah, even if it's 100 degrees out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Here's the big advantage, though. You get awesome fuel economy. It improves that 13%. Here's the disadvantage, right? I did this myself to remind me that it sounds great until you realize that it's going to go longer, right? So what's the disadvantage? You're adding engine hours to your engine, right? And customers that are used to having that pull down really quick, like if you guys pre-cooling, right? Hopefully they're pre-cooling before they load. So they want to get, they laugh. You want to get to the loading dock to have the trailer at set point when you load, ideally, where it may have been taking an hour or so in the past, now it may take significantly longer. So now your time to set point is longer. So disadvantage, you're going to put more hours on your engine. You're going to be longer waiting for it to get to set point. So some customers like my Walmart, screw that. We don't want more hours on our engine and we don't want to wait. So just go into guard access and disable it.
It's defaulted to this.
Oh, it's defaulted to this, big time. It's one of the few times where we actually defaulted our software to maximize fuel economy. It doesn't really affect temperature management because if you follow our best practices for loading, you're doing this to pre-cool the box, right? So there's no product, there's no effect. Where it hurts is people who don't wait. They pull a 90-degree box, pull it right up to the loading dock, don't care. They barely start it before they load and they start loading it in.
Yeah, that's not how it works for us.
Yeah, so look out for that. You ever see the recycling symbol? It's like a triangle with multiple arrows in a circular motion. That's what you'll see. That's what you'll see in the HMI display. Right where the
eco symbol, yeah.
Yeah, it's an eco, right? It's recycling. Right where the little, or I call the alien face, which is a cycle-century symbol. Hey, I didn't start that alien face thing. Some driver called me, goes, something weird going on with my unit. Yeah, what's wrong? This is an alien face in the display. Alien face? It's got big eyes. And go, yeah, what are you hauling? I don't know, something around 10 degrees. Well, the alien face is okay. He won't hurt you. It's just cycle-century mode, right? Yeah, so right where the little cycle-century mode icon is, right next to it, you would see that recycling little symbol will pop up. Yeah. So if you get a complaint from a driver that says, doesn't seem like my unit's working right. When I turn it on, it doesn't go to high speed. Ask them to look in the display. And next to the alien space, do you see his spaceship? then you're in cycle-century eco mode. Gotta love the drivers. It might be hard to see. So this is temperature watch, right? It's the bigger numbers. See zone 2? See the little circular looking thing? Eco mode. This guy's
just an eco mode in that one drive, or all?
No, it's where they stuck it. If it's a standard display, it'll be where I told you, up by where this isn't continuous, so there's no cycle-century symbol. But notice the little circle, right where the cycle-century symbol would be. If this was in cycle-century, then that moves over, and you get both icons. So I just put up the spaceship, didn't do the alien.
Zone 1 as well?
Right, all across the board. Any zone that's below 35, that symbol will stay up there. See, this one is, I was screwing around, so I just put -20 on there because I wanted it to stay up there a while. I was taking pictures. So I put it minus 20, but let's say zone 3 is at 35, right? Because you have at least one zone that's below 35, it'll keep doing that until all of them are at least 35. Now when all 3 zones are 35, right, it'll kick into high speed until it gets to minus 20. Or whatever the set point is. It could be 10, could be minus 10. Once it hits 35, if it still needs to pull down, then the algorithm goes high speed.
If you have, say this unit that's precedent here, the C600, it's 85 degrees outside, you have a box temp of 68, and you're wanting to get to minus 20, how long would it take?
How warm is it outside?
85.
85, and so am I just turning the unit on at 85?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's 85 outside, typically it's pretty close that the box temp's going to be around 85, right? And minus 20, so you look at the TD difference, right? 85 is not that bad. It's probably an hour or less. It's probably under an hour. It's when you get to 95 and 100. Now you're talking an hour and a half to 2 hours. If it hits high speed, it'll be quicker, but you're going to add probably a half hour to 45 minutes if it goes eco mode. Yeah.
So they're badass.
They are. They are. And we were talking earlier to somebody, horsepower, right? Horsepower over BTUs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horsepower is only an advantage. So where we have an advantage in pull down is, to your point, if it's like 95 degrees outside, you're trying to suck out like 96,000 BTUs. So what's my capacity, right? It's like 21,000. So if you do the math, right, the unit, this is per hour, right? The unit can only suck, at minus 20, it can only suck about 21,000 BTUs per hour, right? So if you have an S600 M, that horsepower will overcome that 96,000 really fast. But what happens is, as you're pulling down and you start getting to the 30s, right? Now, yeah. So now horsepower doesn't help you. It kind of evens out. So my under 25 guy, he's up there. He's good, because at that point we're pulling, we're going against 30,000 BTUs. And we're already getting 20,000 plus. It doesn't matter that I could have racked that motor up another 10 horsepower. But once it gets closer to set point, it doesn't add any BTU help to me at all. It's that coil surface, and it's already, so your evaporators, right, your coil and your condensers, if the superheat, okay, so this is all that basic thermodynamic stuff. That superheat, the balance in the coil, the efficiency of the coil, right? Once you've met the maximum efficiency there, there's no more to overcome. That's the discussion sometimes it's difficult to have with drivers and loaders, right? Because they don't understand that whole concept, right? About heat movement and the physics of it. You can't overcome the physics. If your trailer doors are wide open, or you're putting in whatever, 40,000 pounds of meat, or, about 5,000 pounds of ice cream, whatever it is. Yeah.
And having trouble comprehending short bulkhead.
Yeah. So you have all these physical barriers, right? All these physical variables that cannot be overcome because they're physicals, the physics and the physical of overcoming that, you just can't do it. And I'm not a scientist, but trying to explain that to a truck driver is rough.
Freezing a load of cardboard.
Yeah, oh, that's a good one. Yeah, how about a load of tires? Hey, my unit, he's back hauling tires. Hey, my unit's not cooling. Check the unit out, we'll spend an hour, hour and a half. Oh, TD looks great, but he's right, that temperature's not dropping. Hey, what are you loading? What are you hauling? Right, so it's tires, seals are most prevalent. At least in my experience is it's hard to get them to break a door seal, right? Especially with food, with all the terrorism, biohazard bullcrap. They almost never want to let you go inside today, nowadays. Used to be you could call across the lettuce. You can't do that stuff no more. But yeah, so he didn't even look at the bill of lading. Dude, we're never going to cool those tires down. There's a lot of heat to suck out of there. Yeah, he had a refrigerator load that way. He just assumed refrigerator load coming back. The unit was running when he went there. Let the unit run coming back.
They had
Yeah, a lot of fuel waste.
a whole load of cardboard pallet. The cardboard, they were out there, thought it was a load going out, and they said, "Hey, this thing ain't freezing." I'm like, and he's like, "What are you loaded with?" So, I don't know. So we walked back there, popped the seal. Somebody sealed a loaded trailer of cardboard. It's like, it's not called freeze cardboard, sorry.
It's not.
It'll take forever.
It's not.
I swear to God.
Yeah, you can chase your tail a lot on those kind of things. I can't find anything wrong with the unit. You know what? Most of the time, it's because there's nothing wrong with the unit. Get those outside variables figured out. So now you see eco mode. It's defaulted on. At install, right? There's probably already a discussion between salespeople, dealer, installers as to how that unit is going to leave here, right? But if you know for a fact that that's not something Martin Brower is going to want, you want to kind of take a look at the unit. See, like that one out there, I didn't look at eco mode when I was going through guarded access. But that's why I want to just fire it up without making any changes to it and see what they said in there. Because none of the two that were out there were set up yet. They were right in the middle of the install. So I'm curious to look at tomorrow. Just turn it on and just see what it does. Okay. Any other questions, comments on eco mode? All right, so here's the critical point, right? RPM adjustment. Low speed, you want to go into service test mode, and we're going to put zone 1 in defrost. All right? What do you think happens to suction pressure when zone 1's in defrost? Yeah, that suction pressure should start climbing. Going up. So we're going to monitor suction pressure. Real easy. You can go on gauges, select suction pressure, hit the lock key, and now it stays up there so you can monitor it. We want to start seeing that suction pressure keep going up. Make your adjustment when it hits 40 psi suction pressure. Once it hits 40, you can start making your adjustment, and it's just that thumb screw, right? You're reading 1440 at 40 psi suction, you should be good to go. That's low speed. Not too tough. So, Mike, I think, also mentioned this. All the precedent units have ETV, right? So ETV replaced the throttling valve. The mechanical throttling valve, it's a preset pressure, right? So when you're reading pressure in a Spectrum SB, you're reading unregulated pressure because the pressure happens at the throttling valve. That's why your pressure check is when you put a compound gauge at the base. Now you can compare unregulated pressure to what the regular pressure of the throttling valve is, right? Makes sense, right? Mechanical, all done. The ETV is further up the suction line. It's just on the output of the evaporator. So between the evaporator outlet and your compressor inlet is this ETV throttling valve, which is now under control of the microprocessor. When you're hitting high speed and you're putting a load on the compressor, just like the throttling valve, the ETV's job is to regulate that pressure. We're unloading the compressor because we want to unload the engine, right? They're directly coupled. If we unload the compressor, we reduce the load on the engine. The microwatt tries to do that right away with the ETV.
Butterfly valve.
Yeah. Yeah. So, controller, right, energizes the solenoid and gets that motor going. We want to push that thing to 2200. So to make sure of that, you have to make sure that that stop screw, right, the throttle and the stop screw are touching. They need to touch. Once you're doing that, right, it should stay at 2200 or higher. As a matter of fact, you'll probably see it above 2200. That's why we put that statement in there. Normally we would tell you adjust it down if it's above 2200. With the C600 M, let it go as high as 2300 if it does. If it's under 2200, your complaint will probably be capacity issues, especially at high ambient, right? Remember all that horsepower talk I just did to you? So at really high ambient, the drivers and loaders are going to complain about capacity. It just doesn't seem to pull down to set point. Check RPMs. Got to be 2200 or higher. Questions on any of that? All right, so it's hard stop at 4, right? 4, we're done. I kind of already been talking about it, so I'm just going to quickly review this, and then we'll touch again in the morning if there are any questions. But so this is what you guys are used to seeing. All right, so this is the Spectrum SB. Engine directly coupled to the compressor. Engine's driving belts, one for the condenser fan, one for the evaporator blower. Water pump, belt-driven alternator, battery, and the whole entire system is a 12-volt control system, everything, right? So what did we do different? We're still directly coupled to the engine. Yeah, that is the most efficient way of doing it. They actually were open to everything. When they said we're going to redesign this to this new unit, we want to look at different engine manufacturers. That's how we came across the Peugeot. They just said, everybody, this is what we want. Tell us what we can do. They looked at what the competitor does, where they drive a generator only and the generator powers everything. We looked at all that. Our smart engineers say this is the most efficient way of doing it. The largest load is your compressor. The engine should be driving the largest load. So we say directly coupled. The way I understand it is, in mechanical energy transfer, every time you're transferring that energy to something, you lose efficiency. So here we're like 90+% efficient. If we just drove the generator and powered everything else like the other guys do, when they transfer that power from the motor to the generator to everything else, they're losing that efficiency from the generator on. So like on the C600 M, you still have the water pump belt on there. On the S600 M, it's with the timing belt under the cover. But now what we're doing is we're powering the generator, which only powers the stuff in the host, right? The generator provides power to both condenser fans and the evaporator blower. You have a battery charger, so that's how the battery charger gets its power. Battery charger charges the battery, and then the rest of the system is 12 volts. So yeah, we added a high voltage generator, puts out about, at low speed 230, high speed 345 volts, high speed. 5 and a half kilowatts. Only in the host. The remotes are still 12 volt blowers, 12 volt control system. So yeah, so there's a little danger there, right? That engine is running, that generator is putting out high voltage. This is where I punish the test light people. Poke through that high voltage line with your test light while that engine's running, and you're doing the electrical dance. Yes. And I'll talk about whole high voltage safety. The plus is the majority of the time, if you have to do diagnosis here, you should be able to do it just with what? output test mode. You can energize all the circuits and kind of check all the circuits. It's going to be rare that where you have to do any live volt testing with that generator. As a matter of fact, I don't even recommend it. There's a lot other safer ways, right? One's already amp clamp. And knowing the amp draw is just as good as checking live voltage there, right? Also, there's a safety feature that all the high voltage wiring harnesses are behind that orange loom. Do you guys see the orange loom out there? Yep. Don't be poking through the orange loom, eh? Yeah. Very efficient, right? They call it this DDE, diesel direct electric. When you use that hybrid word, another knuckleheads use hybrid. It's not really a hybrid. Not really. True sense of the word. We put this statement up here because I know you guys are getting electric standby. But prior to the last few years, most trailer units did not have electric standby. So reefer technicians, unless they did a lot of straight truck stuff, weren't dealing with AC electricity much. Every precedent has a generator. Every precedent now, whether or not it has electric standby, it's going to have potentially 30 volt AC 3-phase current. So anytime the motor is running, the generator is just turning, beware. So serial plate, we still have one up there by the evaporator and over by the battery now. The unit battery, just on the inside, has the little serial plate. So if the decal's not right or not there, that serial plate should be right. It'll tell you what model you have. Also the serial number, you can look it up. In the description, it will show you that you have, which unit you have. Where's my pointer? It shows you in the box anyway. Right. That's a S100 M, so right away I don't even have to open, well, I'm opening the doors if I'm looking at the decal. But the door says S600 M, I know it has a Peugeot engine in it. So you can see voltage, high speed, it tells you right there. Low speed is 230, but high speed is 345. And now, remember the days when you had the first 3 digits? Kind of told you the year, month, year. You had to kind of figure out that last year, it only gave you 1 digit. 6 could have been 1996 or 2006. Now they just stamp it right there. You get the manufacturing date. So if you're wondering about warranty, that gives you an idea, right? Because that's the day the unit was manufactured in Puerto Rico, but we don't start your warranty until the in-service date. The BM number is still there. That's the first 6 digits here of the item number. So those first 6 digits up to the M, that's the bill of materials. You can give that to a dealer. They can tell you everything that goes along with that unit. Serial number, BM, manufacturing date. So you guys are just like my buddies at Walmart. You don't have that alternator there. That's the unit alternator, not the accessory alternator that you guys have. You have a battery charger as well. The generator is actually very reliable, right? See that IP56 standard? See those specs, enclosed fan, cooled, doesn't allow for a lot of contaminants to get in there. That's what makes it very reliable. The other guys are open. You know, they're open, they get the cooling by opening up the generator. Ours is fan cooled, so road debris, It's been tested. That's how you get that IP56 standard. Permanent magnet generator, best power to weight ratio. There's your power output. 5.5 kilowatts. Ouch. And we got the good belt life. Any generator belt issues out there? Nah, we don't. Okay, don't be laughing. We don't have any battery belt issues.
Those Spectrum.
Yeah, that's why we need to buy more precedent units. I'm just kidding.
Pay for that.
So what's different, right? We talked about the Spectrum earlier. It's very obvious. We don't have the ground side control anymore. It's all power side logic, so it's a SR4, right? You still have the expansion module. It just looks different, right? You see that? It's an open, little smart electronic board. Technically, your S3 remote evaporators are S3 pluses, right? There's a slight improvements in the evaporator. Again, where improvement improves capacity, works well with the precedent. But it's transparent to you. Physically, you will not see any differences, but there is actually a little improvement in the evaporators. I think I asked you, and you guys said no, right? You don't run any parallel evaporators. You don't have any zones that have 2 evaporators in there, right? That's good. Walmart has 2. So, multi-temp refrigeration control solenoids, the CIS, the purge valve, the RTPS, hot gas solenoid, liquid line solenoid, all that stuff is still all the same. The big difference, right? I'll jump right to the engine. We talked about that, right? So big difference in the engine. And every precedent, for those of you guys that haven't dealt with single temp units in ETV, now you need to deal with the ETV. Every precedent has ETV. Every precedent. What's the more? All right, kind of talked about this. Yeah, we have more coil space, more condensers. So it leaves the discharge line from the compressor, goes to the curb side, right? This is that refrigerant flow. Remember that diagram I showed you before? Where discharge line goes over to the condenser, which is on the road side. Comes down to the receiver tank that used to be all over there. Now the compressor goes up curbside, shoots across to the roadside, then back over. We put the receiver tank back over on the curbside. So there's your refrigeration cluster. All right, so now here's our receiver tank. So you have your CIS, condenser check valve, suction vibrosorbers, ETV is hidden in there. I don't think I pointed it out. Next time we go out there, just like there, you can just barely see it. I'll show you some pictures as we move along. Discharge vibrosorber, high pressure relief, condenser inlet solenoid, receiver tank, accumulator tank. Change the orientation of the accumulator tank. Used to be horizontal, now it's vertical. Got to make room.
The ATV's on the outside?
It's it used to be in the back, right? Yeah, it used to be in the back. Yeah, it's all in the front. Just like that panel covering the evaporator blower, the thought process was if you ever have an issue, remember those single temps? You get those code 89s, well, you can't do anything because you can't get to the ETV. That's one reason why they put it to the front. More accessibility was the idea of putting the refrigeration cluster over here. Was more accessibility. Everything that you need to manipulate is on one side of the unit. Filter dryer is even easier too, right? It's right there on the outside. You're not fighting that corner. So they thought about service guys a little bit.
Above the battery box.
Except for the battery box. Actually, believe it or not, it was worse than that. There used to be all kinds of wire harnesses right over there. Yeah, the field units, I had to modify all that crap. And it was still hard. It's actually improved. It'll be a couple of years now before we get to it, but they're actually looking at redesigning, because right away, one of the major complaints is that huge big center door. So they're looking at redesigning so that those are smaller, right? That the doors down here are bigger, because that way you can just pop them open and give you the access. And then we're only worried about covering that evaporator cover. So if, instead of easy lift open center door, maybe that center skin is just bolted down as well. So you unbolt that, now you have access to unbolt the evaporator. This is stuff we've been talking about in the year. The reason why it's not coming next year is, honestly, how much abuse do our skins and doors withstand? Yeah, that's a little Achilles heel there for us, right? And our drivers don't help. So what they decided to do, instead of going ahead and redesigning for accessibilities, they're going to redesign skins and doors so they're all backwards compatible, improve that, where at least it takes a little bit of abuse without breaking. So that's the goal, is fix that first.
There's not a lot of clearance between the skin over the condenser though and the outside skin. The clearance is very tight in there.
You're talking about like the grill part there?
Yeah, you hit that grill, you destroyed the condenser. There's no clearance there.
Yeah, but what are they hitting it with, right? Like tree branches? Yeah?
Anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a quarter.
Yeah, the truck exhaust? They thought about putting something there. Are you guys seeing a lot of that damage there? Are you? Yeah.
Every day?
Yeah, well, we'll report it up the chain. But the idea would be...
There is a, eighth of an inch clearance.
Yeah.
No, if it had a 1 inch clearance, it would be enough that it could flex.
Yeah, but if that grill cover is going to split when you hit it, no matter how much clearance you got, the branch is still going to go into the coil. So their plan is, like to your point, if the cover withstands a bump, then it's not going to puncture the coil or any of your components down here, because all the doors, all the skins are going to get upgraded. And then you want to make them backward compatible. So if you have a better design manufactured door, when you break this one, you're going to replace it with something that will withstand a better impact.
I don't know how many bottom trays we've replaced from,
The very bottom panel on the unit?
this has been crushed against the tractor.
Yeah. Just jump the kingpin. Yeah. Seen that.
Yeah.
All of that will be improved. And we might even give you the same price. I don't know. But there are plans to improve those. There are.
Yeah, but 3/8 armor plating is.
Hey, I got to hand it to them other guys. You could probably hit their doors with a bat and they'll probably take it. Yeah, if you just take a normal swing. I think I've seen them do that.
Sounds like you tried it.
Maybe. No, that's what they tell me. I kind of believe it because I walked around their unit a little bit. So, yeah. Plus I have customers that are mixed fleet. So that's how I spy on them guys.
You don't break them, do you?
No, I wouldn't do that. That's industrial espionage. I'm almost done here. Sight glass, right? Secondary symptom. I talked about purge valve, check valves, RTPS, receiver tank pressure solenoid, RTPS check valve, RTPS service valve, which allows you to help you diagnose the RTPS check valve, right? And the outlet valve, RTOV. See how wide that evaporator coil is? It goes the whole length of the unit. Yep.
Yeah, because they moved everything up front.
We needed the space. Plus it helps us too, because that stuff's out there. Now there's gonna be a couple of new things here that you're gonna have, right? This is all typical standard stuff, right? The remote check valves. This is what's new. Because you have an ETV, so you already have a zone 1 hot gas solenoid, right? For heat and defrost in zone 1. But you actually have a second hot gas valve. Works the same way. It's a normally closed solenoid. So what happens is when the microprocessor is working the ETV, which I'll go very in depth on the ETV, so don't worry. But what it does is sometimes it'll use a little hot gas in there to bump the suction pressure. Because the ETV's in the suction line, right? So when it starts closing the ETV because it wants to drop suction pressure because of the load of the engine, if I was to completely close that valve, I would have zero suction pressure going into a vacuum. So that bypass valve will open up and shoot some hot gas in there. Get your suction pressure going back up. So that's your hot gas bypass valve. And then that one's for the refrigeration of zone 1. If you need to go and heat and defrost, that's your HGS1. Liquid line return check valve, liquid line solenoid, suction line solenoid, all your host stuff. Oh, look at the heat exchanger. Normally it's vertical all the way over to the left. Now we put it horizontal and give them guys another target. Pound the crap out of that back of that unit and you're gonna give us some refrigerant leaks. We've had some complaints. I don't know, have you guys run into any problems where they hit these things real hard? You got an issue back there? Not yet? Okay, so.
Backhaul rugs.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have customers that backhaul them big old rolls of carpet. They do the old bump stop. Just keep going. Bang! Okay, we can stop. Yeah. And I've had actually like supermarket distributors where their forklift, they'll pound the back. So that has been just a little bit of a weak point. But they're also have reinforced that now. So typically that evaporator panel cover is not very thick and there's not a whole lot of support there.
Got the one with
Yeah, so they beat that up now going forward.
I don't know how many cook trays of
Yeah. Yeah, so it's better. Hey, how about the host discharge, air discharge opening? Yeah, it used to be a little square to the offset to the right. Anything else missing there?
Defrost tamper.
Yeah.
Fan operated.
There we go. Yeah. Do we need it? Nope. Get that out of there. That's one less component, one less service item, a little flapping door.
You just stop the fan.
Yeah, just turn the fan off. Same thing we do in a remote, right? We go defrosting a remote, we just turn the fans off. Defrosting the hose, we just turn the fan off. Got an electric motor, electric fan. Notice the opening used to be a square, triangular, that it helps increase air movement through the unit. That's actually more efficient. I already talked about the compressor changes, so I'm going to go through it quickly, but that's what it looks like. That's new shaft seal. Shaft seal, it lives in a pressurized cavity around the seal, so we always have positive oil pressure. Even when the unit is running in a vacuum, right? So you have very low ambient temperatures, very low box temperatures. Typically your pressures are going to be very low. Very possible that the compressor is going to be running in the vacuum more often. But the shaft seal will always have positive pressure, so there's always compressor oil, there's always refrigerant oil there at the shaft seal. Increases reliability tremendously. And it's all on all our 4-cylinder compressors. That's what it looks like. Obviously it's a different shaft seal, right? So whatever you may have shaft seal inventory wise works on precedent, anything prior to 2014, right, is the old shaft seal. Anything spring, summer, 2014 moving forward, which means that if you got precedents in late 2014, look for the P. Those are the changes as well, right? You have to increase the casting and the opening of the body and the cover plate.
And don't anything with the internal oil pump have that seal?
That is very true, but what happened early on, we already had compressor casing bodies that had the external filter. They didn't change it. So that statement is right. Everything that with the internal filter will have the new shaft seal, but it's very possible that in early 2014, yeah, it'll have the P stamped on it, but you'll see like, oh, this has a bypass filter. They just left it, they didn't change it. So look for that P. That's going to be critical. Different seal. Yep, that front plate, the seal, the cavity, that casting now has all changed. Anything middle to late 2014 moving forward, which means that it's possible for you to have a Spectrum with this new compressor in it. All the precedents should have it. Some of the Spectrums may have it. So you have that molded P, so right by the shaft seal there, right by the shaft. And then if you look where the model number and serial number is, there's a P there as well. Yeah, we marked it pretty well.
So that has the external filter right there.
Yeah, it does, because right early on, we just left it. Cost more to redo them all than to just let them run through the production line. Yeah, so see, Spectrum SB, January 2014. So it's possible you could have some of those. There's the internal filter. Yep, see how it looks there? Yeah, someone asked me, about replacing that. Yeah, there's no need to, because if you had a catastrophic compressor failure, you're replacing the compressor anyway. Do a cleanup. Yep, so there's breakdowns of the two condenser fans. They are truly a one-speed fan, right? But their speed is based on the output of the generator, right? So at low speed, the fans will spin at one speed, but the moment the engine hits high speed, what happens to your generator output? It increases, which means it increases the speed of the condenser fans. But the motor themselves are just dependent on the output of the generator, but they're truly a one-speed fan, as opposed to the evaporator, which actually is a true two-speed blower fan. So 230 three-phase, right? Change speed with generator output, and there's the picture of the radiator. It's a separate coil.
1100, with Chapel 1100.
It's pretty well protected. You're going to lose the condenser before you lose the radiator. And then there's the intercooler as well, that green box there. That's the space for the intercooler. For the turbo, just on the curb side. Yeah, just on the Peugeot, yep. Yeah, because if you had a 610 with the EMR electronic motor, yeah, anything with a EMR motor is a full condenser on both sides. Which I said something about 31 pounds, and that's not necessarily true. Yeah, you guys are only 2 zones, so you're probably not that much higher than what you normally put in a non-precedent unit. So oh, they are 3 zones, but just the evaporator in each zone, right? Yeah, so it'll still be under 28 pounds, I would say. Yeah, remember the Walmart had a specific charge of 28? Yeah. That's what I have to be cognizant of, because now with the precedent, they're actually 31 and a half.
Please repeat the tape for service. Please repeat the tape for service.
28.
There's a cooling channel now. I didn't point it out when we were out there, but you may have noticed that the bottom panel is vented. It's vented on one side. There's a cooling channel. There's actually an open space behind the control box. If you look at the bottom, the panel is vented. We're actually using that curbside condenser over there to suck cooler air. What else is there? Your electronics, your battery, right? A battery charger, all that stuff that's on that side, electronics. Higher reliability because we're sucking cooler air through there. Anybody see any issue with that? How about the Pennsylvania guys? You guys get snow up there? Road debris? Yeah, you think that's going to be an issue? I think that's why the alternator, your accessory alternator, is on the other side. The guys that don't have a battery charger, remember that earlier picture, is right by that open vent. So some wintertime operations may cause a little issue there.
You'll be sucking in all that salt. Right?
Yeah. There's a deflector kit that you can get that protects the alternator better. That's all I can offer you. But for the most part, the cooling channel actually works really well. It increases battery life and the reliability of your electronics. Got a picture in here, I think, that points it out. See? That's how that works. Use that fan, suck up some cool air. This is how a Yanmar would look. You see that little component right there? So in the Peugeot one, when you open up the control box, that upper right-hand corner showed the ECU. On a Yanmar, it's right by the battery charger. It's inside that actual cooling channel. So that would be the Yanmar ECU. Battery charger and the inlet. So I talked about the evaporator blower is a true two-speed. We get some advantages there. And we get front fan access. Here's why that two-speed evaporator fan motor is an advantage. Right? So, right, if we're at low-speed engine, previously in the Spectrum, if we needed more capacity, the engine would have to go into high speed. Yeah. So the advantage we have here now is when the engine's at low speed and you need increased capacity, you put the evaporator motor in high speed. Then if you need more capacity, then you can put the engine in high speed and the evaporator blower can go in low speed. But you still need more capacity, airflow capacity, then they both can run in high speed. The engine runs in high speed and the evaporator motor goes in high speed, and now you have maximum airflow. The cool thing is, before you get there, the longer we can keep the engine in low speed, the more fuel economy we get. So we have a SR4 controller. See right there is the ECU. So that's for a Peugeot engine. Looks just like the XR3 except it's blue. You notice that? SR2, SR3, it's green. SR4 is blue. You want to know why? You think it's super special? It's all about, globally, printed circuit boards traditionally, right, were green. Turns out that if you use the blue one, it's actually less expensive. In the world, most people use blue printed circuit boards than green ones. So by switching to blue, it's cheaper for us. That's it. It all works exactly the same. That's why expansion module's blue, the SR3's blue. Yeah.
When the price didn't drop.
Of course not. We got to make money.
Cheaper to make.
Yeah. Look at it this way. We're not changing any extra for the pretty blue color. So just like the SR3's SR4 ECU, it's in the same control box, and the expansion module is another printed circuit board, no longer enclosed in a little plastic box. Works all the same though. Same LEDs, same concept process. And then of course we got the more ergonomic HMI. Gotta spit that out.
I see your Deutsch connector hanging down there in the bottom.
Down here?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, that right there. What do you think that's for?
Gotta be the diagnostics program.
Yeah. What are you diagnosing? The REB. You know that serial cable that you use for the WinTrack downloading of the Spectrum SB. You can use it to communicate with the REB. It's the same serial port connection. That's what's dangling down there. That's what she said. See, I'm funnier when I get like dirtier, nastier. Hey, you notice there's 2 USB connections here? When they first came out, we used to have a USB to USB cable. So the whole connecting the PC to the SR4 you guys were asking me about, you could do it from the outside, but now we got rid of that. Most people are going to use the flash drive because it's more practical, easier. You don't have to open the control box. But if you ever need to hook up the PC, now you need a mini USB to USB. It's up here, right around there. So like a lot of you had smartphones, right? Your charging data cable, it's a small little USB. That's a micro USB. The mini USB is a little fatter. So your smartphone from 5 years ago, that's the cable that would fit in there. It's like a little square. Yeah. Now you got one? Is that a TK one?
Yeah, that's the 10-footer.
Okay. So if I had a smartphone cable from years ago, like I'd probably get from Radio Shack, if they're still around, or Best Buy, it would probably work, right? Because the smartphone communication is two-way communication. However, some of them are literally just charging cables. They're not data cables. That one will work. So if you want one, get it from Thermo King. Yeah. Hey, I'm not trying to sell you stuff. I'm not. All right. So here's my sales pitch, okay? You guys laughing at me. Here's my sales pitch. When I'm connecting my phone to my computer, I'm right here, right? How long is that cord? Right? Yeah. I want to connect it to the unit. Look how long that cord is. It's more practical.
It's easy to build a laptop stand, though, right on the side of the unit.
Got to reach it anyway.
Yeah, but it's uncomfortable. You want to be down on the floor, on the ground. What if you want to sit down in a chair? No.
Wrong answer.
What, do you think it's more expensive? Of course it is. But it's better. It's longer.
You say so.
Yeah, I do.
It's from TK, right?
All right. You want to know what I did? I got that short 3-foot cord, and then at Best Buy they have like a 6-foot extension. That's what I did. Mike's got the money, so he can get the expensive Thermo King stuff.
I've seen my truck, man.
Yeah, have you seen his truck? He's got a friggin' fully loaded like F-150 truck.
With the platinum.
Yeah. I got a little basic Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, hey.
Now my wife would probably put me to work if I had a pickup truck. Sorry, honey, I can't carry that. I got a small little Jeep. Yeah, so everything's pretty much similar, right? SR2, SR3. Some of the menu differences get based because of software. But essentially, it all works the same.